Hi there, welcome to Drick's room. My name is Drick. Last time we talked about the interview process for applying to colleges and shared some advice to help have a successful interview. However, the world has changed considerably since last application cycle, and this year, in-person interviews and just interviews in general are a lot more uncommon. In previous years, a number of schools have offered video portfolios as an alternative to the traditional interview. So some students would have interviews while others made video portfolios. I think one of the most well-known schools that does this is Brown University. But this cycle, some of these schools have decided to scrap all interviews entirely and instead focus on just video portfolios. Essentially, these portfolios are short videos of yourselves where you talk about the same things you would in an actual interview. The disadvantage here is that your allotted time is a lot shorter. You know, interviews can reach upwards of an hour or two, but these videos are only like 2 minutes long. On the other hand, the advantage of these videos is that you can script them out and include pictures, clips, music, and whatever else at your disposal. For people who don't think they would do well with in-person interviews, this is a great opportunity. For people who don't have much experience with making videos, this can be a bit intimidating. But no need to fear because I am here. Last year, I made a video portfolio, so I have a bit of experience with this. Originally, when I applied to Brown, I selected that I wanted to do an in-person interview because I didn't really know much about the video portfolio and I was already doing interviews for all the other schools that had them anyway. By around February, I had already done a good number of my interviews, but no one from Brown had reached out to me for an interview. At that point, I thought I was an auto reject, meaning that they didn't even want to waste their time sending someone to interview me if they already knew they were going to reject me from the start. But around that time, I got an email from Brown asking me to submit a video portfolio instead. Again, I thought that meant I was going to be an auto reject because they didn't want to send anyone to interview me. Looking back now, I probably couldn't get an interview at the time because there weren't enough interviewers in my area. Now, as you know, when college admissions have grabbed you by the throat, every little thing stresses you out. So seeing that email, I wasn't feeling too hopeful. But you know, everything worked out for me, so there really was no point in worrying. Okay, now maybe it was just me, but I honestly preferred the video portfolio to the interview. At the time of submitting my application, I didn't choose to make a portfolio because I didn't really know what they were and I didn't want to take that risk. But compared to a lot of my in-person interviews, it was a lot more fun. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I like making these YouTube videos, but I really enjoyed the whole process of it. If you guys would like to see my Brown video portfolio, I'll link it in the corner and in the description, so feel free to check it out. Alright, time for me to sauce some advice. I made a video on this same exact topic on my main channel last year, but I think it was very cringe, so we're gonna do it again. As some general points to keep in mind, in your video portfolio, you want to do the same things you would have done had you done an interview. Ignoring the format, the two of them do basically the same thing, which is why some schools in the past have let prospective students choose between them. One isn't inherently better than the other, so as long as the content and execution are on the same level, it wouldn't really matter which one you picked. So although filming yourself in your room doesn't feel the same as having an actual interview, you should try to treat it as such. As with your interview, your video should include the major points about yourself that you'd like to cover. As sort of a starting point, you could try answering the common, "Tell me about yourself." With that, you could talk about a lot of the same things you did in your application essays. You can view this video as kinda like an elevator pitch you're giving to the school. It wouldn't be good to repeat everything word for word, but giving another angle of the things you've already talked about before can help to strengthen the message you're trying to give them. You'll also have a chance to talk about these things further than the word limit of your essays allowed, and you can even talk about topics you didn't get a chance to cover at all in your essays. There isn't really much in the way of requirements for things you have to talk about. Besides introducing yourself, you're pretty much free to talk about whatever you want. But it's important to be mindful that your application is viewed as a sum of its parts. So what you choose to include and where you choose to include it can be impactful if executed well. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is that you don't need to be a professional cinematographer or whatever in order to make a good video portfolio. You don't need super high quality production to have a successful application, because I've seen some videos from successful applications where it was just the applicant sitting in their room and talking, or a voiceover of pictures and videos they'd taken. And on the other hand, I've seen some videos from unsuccessful applications that were super fancy in their camera quality and editing. Of course, the videos alone don't tell the full story because admissions are holistic, and you'd have to also consider the rest of their application. But I think this does show that plain looking videos can be successful. I made my video portfolio with my iPhone and did some simple editing on it. These days, a lot of iPhones come with iMovie, so if you have an iPhone, you already have everything you need to make your video. And if you're on Android for some odd reason, there are plenty of free video editing apps that you can also use. But while you don't need to do anything super fancy, you should still try to make the best video that you can. While production quality isn't something that's being judged for the most part, if your video is taken in the dark or it's hard to hear you, that may not leave the best impression on whoever ends up watching your video. Again, you don't need to do anything super fancy, but basic things like good lighting and good audio can only help you. Something else I want to touch on is using your time efficiently. As we already talked about, video portfolios are a lot shorter than actual interviews. Interviews don't really have any hard time restraints, but video portfolios tend to have clear expectations for video length. As an example, for Brown, my video had to be 2 minutes long, and it's likely not too different for other schools that also have video portfolios. And so if you have 2 minutes, you should use all 2 minutes. It's already hard enough to squish everything you want to talk about in such a short amount of time, but having a video that's noticeably under the time limit may show that the video isn't at its full potential, I guess. When I was making my video, instead of trying to add video and images and just talking until you reach the time limit, I would say everything I need to say first, even if it surpasses the time limit, and then edit it down from there. Because with this method, I can be sure that I've said everything I wanted to say while using all my time efficiently. And if this raw video ends up being pretty long, I can always edit out all the unnecessary pauses and stuff later. If you have 2 minutes to work with, and your video is 1 minute and 50 seconds, you still have a whole 10 seconds to add more information. I know it doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, what can you do with just 10 seconds? But honestly, those 10 seconds can make a big difference in your video. And although you want to use all your time, you should be trying to use it as effectively as possible. It's not really a good idea to pad it out with fluff like holding a shot for a bit after you finish a sentence, or starting/ending your video with just music. Of course, this isn't an absolute rule or anything because there are always exceptions, but generally this just takes up space in your video without adding anything meaningful. Like with your essays, there's a limit you have to be aware of. With your essays, it's the word limit, and with your video, it's the time limit. In your essays, every sentence should have a purpose, and in your video, every second should also have a purpose. Any sentence in your essay or any second of your video that doesn't contribute to your overall message can honestly just be taken out. And so even before all this, even before you turn on your camera and start recording, I highly recommend that you script it out. This is a big advantage this format has over interviews because in your videos, everything you say can be calculated precisely. But with your interviews, you might end up repeating yourself or stuttering or saying things like and like, or pausing for an extended amount of time while you try to come up with a decent answer. But that's not an issue here because you can script out everything you want to say beforehand. Of course, you could always try that in an actual interview, but that's dependent on the interviewer asking the exact questions you're making a script for. In your portfolios, with this level of control over everything you say, you can also work on adding elements of creative storytelling throughout your video. In a way, your video can kind of become like a story about who exactly you are. This is harder to do in interviews because, again, things are a lot more freeform and unstructured compared to the video. I'm not a super articulate person on my own, so writing down everything I want to say word for word was definitely a real help. You know, I'm even reading off a script right now. So again, I highly recommend taking some time to sit down and script out everything you want to say. It really won't even take that long because the video is only around 2 minutes, which will end up being around 300 to 400 words, depending on how fast you talk. This will also help speed up the whole filming process because you won't have to spend time thinking and refilming stuff when trying to come up with what to say on the spot. I was able to make my whole video from start to finish, including planning and uploading and all that, in about a day. And it could have taken a couple more hours if I hadn't done any of that pre-planning. So if you're the type of person that doesn't deal well with the pressure of trying to come up with what to say on the spot, just make a script. And so after you finish your video portfolio and upload it, you're done. Really, actually done. After this, in terms of your college applications, all you really have to do now is wait until decisions come out in a couple months. Congratulations on finishing. I hope you guys can take a nice long break after this. I hope this video was helpful to you guys as you make your own video portfolios. And with that said, thanks for watching and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.